And so what I'm going to be talking about today is the new math den. I used my grant money to do something in the new math den. We moved from Neville, which was not a very nice room, if you knew the room in Neville Hall. And this is the East Annex, which is right next to Neville. The math den, it was had old carpet and not nice paint on the walls, or the ceilings was bad, the lighting was bad. Everything was kind of bad about the old den in the Neville Hall. And now you can see we have this great new space. We have 2 rooms. We're just kind of using one room right now. We have computers in there on one side of the den, where if students don't have their own laptop, or if it's in the shop, or it has to be charged or whatever, they can use our computers. We have a kiosk system that they can take and sign in on. You can see the little kiosk system right there. There's 2 of them. And so that way we can keep track of their hours in the new den. And we also have another side where they can bring their laptops. We have places they can plug in their laptops. And there's always somebody on duty to help them. There's the TV that I purchased with the grant, and I'll talk more about that in a few minutes. But we have a great new space.
The big thing with Google Hangouts, it is free. There's a share feature which allows you, for a lot of you that use this, to basically see each other's screens. So that's been huge. I'm not an expert in this by any means. I'm still getting the hang of this. One funny story, in the summer online class when I first trialed this, I was like, oh, Google Hangouts, we can all kind of meet each other. So I said to the class of 45, hey, just, we'll Google Hangout. And, it stopped at 10. I should have read the fine print. And then all of a sudden I was getting emails and calls saying I can't get on. So I literally had to repeat what I was saying about 3 times to get everyone in the queue. So it is true, 10 people, which for project teams, it's great. You can get people on there in terms of your project team. For a whole class, not so much. OneDrive. The reason I wanted to use OneDrive is I use Google Drive extensively in a lot of larger classes, and a lot of you like the feature where you can see people's interactive mouses and their little screen icons. And that is great because if you got 100 people accessing the document to put in their stuff, you're not going to get any overwrite problems.
So next, I will show a video. What's the problem when I start teaching? Okay, now you can see this is how I'm teaching. Just an example. I gave a kind of discussion what happens to banana and strawberry and what's the best time to harvest to this 2 types of different fruit. So I wanted to write something on the whiteboard because what exactly happened if you don't harvest at the right time. So there is a chemical reaction. I wanted to write it down with all the kinetics. How one product, say banana, if you want to harvest really at green and store it for 8 days, what changes happens? All those chemical reactions, at what rate it happens compared to the strawberries. So the best time you wanted to harvest is different for banana and also different for the strawberries. So you can see the problem. So the best result I got is I can write it down on my iPad, and that can give a fairly good idea to the students what exactly I'm explaining.
So my summer project was to build a course in user design and to learn to use, I needed to refresh my own memory, to learn to use some software called Madcap Flare. I was very excited about this because at the end I got a certificate that said I have mad skills. So I was very happy. Instead, what we want is a screen that looks like this. We have just kind of an image here, and then this says hard drive recovery, deleted file recovery, and up above then there's a little explanation of what the software does. So this is how technical writers are now building help into software, and they're helping the software programmers, designers learn how to do this, or to know where to put these little little pieces of information that make things better. This was built with the software that I trained with this summer called Madcap Flare. Madcap Flare is a industry standard software, and I really wanted to bring that training to Maine. And I believe we will run this class in the IMRC lab, the new lab associated with the intermedia program, coming next year.
And the 3 modifications I looked at were, 1, developing a relatively well-vetted course evaluation or learning evaluation, which has been developed at the University of Colorado. The second is I've started using Top Hat as a clicker interface with the students to, again, deal with conceptual questions of thermodynamics. And third, there's no laboratory component to this course. And I think it's very helpful to have some kind of a inquiry-based learning model that you get from laboratory experiments where you can sort of try things and see if they work or not, and then try something else. And so I'm looking to implement an industry-used modeling software for process modeling called Aspen Plus. So those are the three things I've started to implement. There's about 45 questions on it, and it takes up to maybe an hour to complete. What I found interesting about it as a tool for both teaching and assessment was that most questions were asked twice. The first question would inquire about a particular conceptual interpretation of a thermodynamic situation. And then the second one would ask them to identify, well, what was your basic understanding that allowed you to pick the first answer? One thing that's nice about Top Hat versus the clicker system, as I understand how they work, is that it's completely web-based, so that the students can access the questions before class or after class, and they can review them also before exams because they're still posted. Although sometimes, because it's network-based, there can be glitches, and sometimes I haven't had connection, and so then that didn't work very well in the class.
The basic idea of a flipped classroom is that instead of the traditional lecture style where students come to class like they often do in my research methods course, and we sit and talk, mostly me talking, for about an hour and a half, and then they go home and work on projects on their own, and they come back and bring those projects back to the lecture. In a flipped classroom, students get the content delivery portion of the class before they come to class. Often this is through video content or other sorts of ways that they can get the content down. And then when they come to class, they spend that time in project or problem-focused experiences where the faculty member can provide direct feedback, and we know that that's related to all sorts of really good.
I'm Jen Tyne from Department of Mathematics and Statistics, and I flipped the classroom for calculus this year. And I'm glad that I went after the last presentation, so you guys all know what it means to have a flipped classroom. I'm in Estabrook 130. If you haven't been there yet, it's a large room with 10 tables, 9 students at a table. There's a large screen for each table there. There's microphones and speakers at every table. There's hookups, HDMI hookups at the tables. All the white walls that you see are whiteboards. In the classroom, I have an iPad. John mentioned the Apple TV in that classroom that I can project onto the screens. You can see the students there and me annotating my slides. You can see one of the large screen TVs. I'm discussing and annotating as I go along with the students. You can see the whiteboard that has student work on it. This is successful in part because I hired some Maine learning assistants, which are undergrads run through the RISE program. It's a grant program called the Faculty Incentive Grant Program. And I have 4 Maine learning assistants. These are undergraduate students who have taken Calc 1 and succeeded at it, and they're there to help their peers along the way. So what do the students think? So partway through the semester, about week 7, I asked some online questions for the students. First off, if you were to do it all over again, you would choose to take Calc 1 in what format? The Estabrook format, which is the current flipped classroom format. You can see in this section, over 75% of the students said they would take it again. Now, granted, they're comfortable with that, and they might have a high percentage in other formats as well, but at least they like it. The ones who are there, a lot of them really like it. About 20% would say the traditional class, and only a few students said they wanted the completely online. My other section, the 1230 section, was very similar. About 2/3 of the students said, yeah, I like this format. This is working for me. So that was really promising.
You have all now become students in a class that I'm teaching apparently about a little bit about the bells and whistles of Camtasia, which is a video making software. And I have assigned you a video to watch at home. So,
hello, I'm going to introduce you to Camtasia 2 editing software for making screencasts. This program is a great tool for making videos if somebody wants to have studio quality but making home production. You can provide captioning, very important for any video to be accessible to all students. Camtasia allows you to type captions while you're speaking, and it will stop the speaking when you stop typing. The microphone I purchased to use with this is the Rode microphone. Very small, around $40, I believe, but it was well worth the cost. By using a mobile app called Fuse, a mobile device like a phone or iPad can be used to shoot the video at a remote location or take pictures at a remote location, and then add those later to a project on your laptop or desktop using Camtasia.
My faculty stipend was used to support my efforts to figure out how we could incorporate simulation into the online version of our Intro IR course, and it will eventually fund the simulation subscription price for students that enroll in a pilot version of our Intro to International Relations course, utilizing a simulation platform called Icons. It's, as I said, it's a simulation that students play the role of national representatives, and there's a variety of different scenarios. And it shows one specific scenario, a UN Security Council scenario. I think there's about 30 total scenarios. And so the students in this scenario are going to work in teams representing individual countries at the UN Security Council, addressing 4 major topics.
The one that I really can't do without is Scrivener. I don't know if anybody have used it. It's a writer's toolbox. It goes way beyond a word processor in that it lets you use note cards, move them around that actually contain the text. You've got all your resources over there. You've got all sorts of notebooks. It does everything, and it'll spit things out in a wide variety of formats. iBooks Author, of course, is free from Apple, and you can even publish to the iBook Store, but I haven't done that. It's a full-fledged word processor, very well done, very easy to use. Curio is a really good notebook, electronic notebook, and I use it for making figures. I also use it for organizing notes, coming up with brainstorming stuff and things like that. I use it for just about everything, but this happens to be one of the projects I use it for. Hype is a tool that allows you to make animations rather easily, and we'll see an example of that in a moment. I'm not an artist, and my students, when I draw on the blackboard, will definitely tell you that. But with this, it makes it fairly easy. A tool that you really can't do without if you're writing anything with formulas is LaTeX, and you can't really use that for this. But there's a program called LaTeX that you can type in snippets of, you can't see that obviously anywhere beyond here, but snippets of code for equations, for figures, and then it